Greetings, clowns and comedians all over the multiverse, and welcome to episode 86 of I Am the Night. We're covering season 3, episode 7 of the series, Joker's Millions, and this one's a right giggle, isn't it? Cohort Adam.
Ah, yes. Much to chuckle about, or not chuckle about, as it were. It's the high camp, high Dick Sprang sort of like bold and bright
Oh,
colors and
yes.
silliness abound with a lot of very interesting themes and bigger questions being asked. Yeah, this episode was a lot of fun and a lot of very out there moments and a few firsts I'm very happy to see. This show never fails to surprise us.
Well, with a script by Paul Dini and directed by Dan Reber, we knew this one was going to be a great one from the off. And like you said, that opening with the giant monitor displaying almost the classic title card moment, but a moving title card moment. Like you said, fantastic Silver Age thing, giant props, huge DVD, and the Joker on a crime spree, actually robbing things not for fun, not for chaos, but because he's broke. And that was a fascinating premise for the whole episode, I thought.
Yeah, there's been times when the Joker's money troubles has really been a good motivator for a lot of what he's been doing. I think that's the same premise as to why he hires his services to
Yeah,
take out Superman in the Batman Superman animated movie, which we'll cover eventually, maybe one day on here in this show. I think.
definitely has to be done.
Um, I think it appears like some point in like the 70s and 80s style comics as well, but it makes for an interesting premise nevertheless because, like, sure, being a professional criminal requires funding. You don't just get the money and then call it a day. You need to be able to buy the guns and hire the goons, and in the Joker's case, build your giant Jack in the Box things and reload your squirty flowers with acid. So there's a lot of prep work to be done to being a villain, and sometimes they can fall on money troubles just like the best of us.
Absolutely. And I found, like you said, the visuals with the squirting acid flower literally just being a dribble, and he could have burnt himself, but vintage Batman versus Joker action, throw in Harley, throw in Barbara Gordon, throw in Nightwing, and that intro just grabs the viewer straight away, doesn't it? That whole battle scene and the classic bit where Batman's gasping and punching the Joker, and he goes, "Ow, my eyes!" And then something rolls out, and he rolls across the floor, and he goes, "Poof!" But then, he goes, "Gotcha!" Mark Hamill is on fire in this episode. He really is.
He really is. He's just known for being like a solid performer of the Joker at this point. He's been at the character for like as of the time of the making of this episode, he's been at the character for a good few years now, but he's also become synonymous with the Joker as with Kevin Conroy's Batman. So yeah, we get him at his best here, and we get him sort of almost dominating the episode, taking the majority of the screen time. So more power to him, the little chuckly friend. I do believe also this might be like the first or second time we've seen him, so we can talk about his new redesign in this third and final season.
We've seen a couple of cameos, but this is his first full appearance since the first episode, since the Christmas one. So yeah, definitely need to talk about that, because I do find, and it pays off later in the episode as well, that new redesign where his eyes are just dots, to be quite unnerving, to be quite scary.
There's some, yeah, it's like little pinpoints behind a mask almost. There's something very sinister because it's hard to read those reactions, and I don't know if it's like his eyes are sunken in or there's just like very heavy eyeshadow, or he's just like tired. But the fact that it's the little dots on all black makes him look very sinister, especially when you compare to like the sort of angular shape of his face and the hot, huge, garish smile. There's a lot to be said about this very minimalist, but still very true to form design.
I mean, it's vintage Joker. You can tell straight away who it is, but I do find that this new, like you said, is well put. The minimalist redesign of all the characters, and I don't know if you picked up on it, that the Joker's got these tiny pinprick eyes, but Batman now has got these piercing blue eyes with no pupil, and it's like the complete opposite again of each other's features. And I do find that redesign of Bruce Wayne to be just as important and just as iconic.
I'd agree with that. I'd agree with that. There's I think sort of like the minimalist and the hard lines and the popping colors very much adds to the whole 30s question mark Art Deco sort of style
Definitely.
that the whole show has always had. But this is just another piece for that. This is them actually like committing that to the characters themselves.
And it's great as well because we said how brilliant Mark Hamill is, and he does take the majority of the episode, which is wonderful. And if anyone can pull it off, it's Mark Hamill. But there's also some great, not just great Batman, Batgirl, Nightwing moments, some great Joker and Harley moments. And again, we're seeing the breakdown, thank goodness, of the Joker Harley relationship and her scenes in Arkham with Ivy and her scenes with Joker at the beginning of the episode in the car. One line killed me. What? So you just expected me to fill the tank, shoot the guy, and drive off? Well,
Yeah.
yeah. Now you tell me. Absolutely brilliant.
It's so true to form and so true to characters. That is what I would have expected them to do anyway. So surprised that Harley needs that kind of like go to from the Joker. But again, we also get that sort of sense that there's nothing stable about anything that they do. I mean, like they're not stable people to begin with, but that sort of adds up to us wondering, okay, are they even still a team? Are they even still together, quote unquote? Um, I'm surprised to see Joker and Harley even interacting. I think they sort of had them together sort of by force of nostalgia and because of the characters were created together. But yeah, Harley's had a lot of emotional growth since her creation, and her relapsing with the Joker makes sense. It's a very common thing in an unhealthy toxic relationship, but um, yeah, we see that enforced because of how well the episode ends. But we'll get to that when we get to that.
Yeah, it's so well done, so well handled. Again, Arlene Sorkin on top form. But I mean, this episode was guest stars a go go.
Hmm.
We knew that we'd have to have Jack Ryder back, and Glenn Bennett is back with more than just two lines this time. He's got a whole news report on the Joker because, and this is absolutely brilliant and a great play on the brilliant. Heavily remade Brewster's Millions trope of Joker inheriting 250 million from an ex gangster colleague. And I do love that continuity tie with Mask of the Phantasm that this version of the Joker is Jack Napier, is a former gangster. And I like that callback to what's gone before.
Yeah, we that's the only reason that they was able to keep that connection, even then the connection was tenuous. The Joker's very much left that life behind as part of like the Ace Chemicals accident and going insane. But that callback is still very satisfying and very nice to see that it's there and that they can sort of commit and keep themselves to that. There's there's a nice moment where we can see that that's why things have happened, but then again, it also might be just like that relationship that he has with a mobster where because I'll be honest, I completely forgot about that connection as well. I thought that that mobster chose him because it was a sort of like friendly rivalry into trying to get the last laugh on the one who laughs last as he goes out. So yeah, there's a good layered few reasons for why things happened here. It rewards those who have seen Master of the Phantasm, and it also rewards those who just knows how the Joker ruffles feathers in the organized crime world.
Well, 'cause let's be honest, I mean, it is touched upon hugely in the comics that the rise of the Joker and the supervillains meant the end of organized crime in Gotham City, and it was so brilliantly portrayed in The Long Halloween and Dark Victory. So again, that is a perfectly good link that the mobsters were in total competition with the Joker, and this was the mobsters' revenge. But what a revenge, leaving the Joker 250 million, but only 10 million of it being real cash and the rest of it being forgery was a stroke of genius and brilliant writing from Paul Dini, I thought.
Yeah, because they had to give the Joker a comeuppance somehow, a sort of like moral trip up, and yeah, there's no easy ways to handle things, but it was very nice to see the. There's a couple of moments in this episode where I actually felt bad for the Joker, which is a very weird thing to have to say.
Right, I was going to mention that too.
Between like that moment when he realizes that a lot of it's fake into just how down on his luck he was at the beginning of the episode. There's a lot of moments where it's just like, damn, like Like the note I wrote was "How the Mighty Have Fallen."
Absolutely, and I'm really glad you brought it up because this is what I was said earlier that while this is a great fun episode and it's hilarious, there's some actual really deep psychology going on here because Joker, when not needing to finance his insanity and his crime spree, when he earns that money, he almost kind of goes legit. And that leads me to seeing, and it made me so happy, the slightly legit front of Oswald Cobblepot of Penguin and the Iceberg Lounge to see the
Mm.
kingpin of crime side of Penguin, which we haven't seen outside of the comics until now. So, which is why I'm really loving these episodes and not having seen them before. I'm getting some lovely surprises as if I'm watching them as they were first released. So, seeing Joker almost go straight and even though he bribed his way out of everything he'd done, and that scene with the judge lawyer saying, "Well, what do you say to the accusation that Joker's literally just paid to have his slate rug clean?" And then it pans out, and he's sitting in his sports car. And I won't even dignify that with a response, and he drives away. It's just brilliant. But Joker almost goes straight, and I do, like you said, almost feel bad for him when he realizes that he's been completely hoodwinked.
Because he really has. He's been had the whole rug pulled out from under him, and he used it to like finance his new bright purple mansion, hire a new Harley Quinn, uh, fill his new house with sad clown paintings, which those of you who appreciate the internet like I do will make you think of Brian David Gilbert, one of my favorite weird creators. Has a lot of has a strong connection to sad clown paintings. Um, so stuff like that, just like seeing the Joker doing what he has to in society without any like constraints of having to need to like fund his lifestyle with crime. Yeah, we do get things a bit more chill with him. And when it's all pulled out from under him, he gets very frantic and very desperate like he was before.
It's so weird because it ties in brilliantly with stuff we've seen in the comics, like in Frank Miller's Dark Knight Returns, where when Batman quits fighting crime and stops, so does Joker. Joker just becomes catatonic and gets locked in Arkham Asylum and sits there and does nothing for like 10 years. And to see that Joker without crime calmed down, and this is another bit that hit me, actually start missing Harley, actually start to almost not be the Joker anymore and revert to whoever he may have been before he became the Clown Prince of Crime. And that leads me to think of classic Batman stories, Elseworld stories like Sean Murphy's White Knight, where the Joker's cured and actually becomes a force for good and is actually more of a threat to Batman as Jack Napier than he ever was as the Joker. And that's what I love about the Batman family of characters that yes, they're hugely entertaining. Yes, you can get action, you can get laughs, you can get thrills, you can get scares, but the amount of depth behind the psychology of these characters is it's mind blowing.
They're such universally open and recognizable characters that you can tell almost any kind of story with them. There's a lot of possibilities to them because ultimately their concepts are very, very simple. Um, there's just the obviously the visual unexpected nature of the fact that like there's a dark and menacing heroic figure and a bright and colorful villainous figure, but you can do a lot of stuff with that because those two elements, they're the minimum. If you do anything that sort of like flips the expectations, then you can go forward. And then you've got like the rest of Batman's Rogues Gallery, where she's just like uh endless need for attention and to be intellectual and to love puzzles. Someone obsessed with fear, someone obsessed with cold, fire. They're all elemental and down the middle, but that means you can,
Archetypes in a way, aren't they?
yeah, they're very archetypal. So you can put a lot of different reads and different spins on them just to say what kind of stories can be told. Because in most other like characters rogues gallery, they're either like very similar characters, so there's hard to tell new stories with them. Like the analogy between like Captain Cold and Mr. Freeze from one of the Flash's villains, or they're just so out there that it's hard to tell anything compelling with them. Like anyone who isn't Lex Luthor or anyone who's in Lex Luthor that's a Superman villain. There's something just so universally simple because they're understated about Batman's side characters that you can tell any kind of story.
and what stories you get. Absolutely. Great visuals as well. I've got to take my hat off to Dan Reba. There's some fantastic moments with Batgirl and Nightwing, a new dynamic duo swooping into action. And there's an iconic scene
Mm.
with Batgirl and Batman on the roof with just the wind blowing and Batman's cape swirling. And I paused that because it was gorgeous. Um, the way they can find the time to tell a deep, layered story, entertain the hell out of you, and still produce some gorgeous, gorgeous visuals is just vintage Batman the Animated Series for this episode, I thought.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I think one of my favorite like images from the episode is right at the beginning when they were being attacked at the Tech Expo. There was a moment where some rubble falls on Batman, giving Joker and Harley the chance to get away. But then Joker pops up and it's just the shadow of the cowl, but then the two white eyes. That
And
that
he
was
looks mad. I
yeah,
agree. That
that's
was a visual that got me as well.
yeah. That moment's just like the figure of fear. It was a really beautiful shot as well. Like I talked a lot recently, as of the time of recording of this video of this podcast, about strong visuals in a good Batman comic that's doing around these days. So, but that was very bombastic, sort of like
Which
actiony
also
set
features
piece,
Batman and the Joker, coincidentally.
truthfully. But that was a big sort of like out there in your face action sequence to be able to tell a story, to convey an emotion, and to convey the character's intent. Ultimately, with just black on white and some like good detailing around it, that's good visual storytelling. That's hard to do. I respect that.
So well done. And it's brilliant done as well with classic but minimal voice acting from Tara Strong and Kevin Conroy in the scene with the cave where she says, you know, what's Joker up to? And Batman just crushes what's in his hand. And you just hear a little, slightly audible grunt from Kevin Conroy. And the sound and look of surprise that the animators have put in alongside Tara Strong's voice, that sense of emotion where Batman is so frustrated again is as powerful as that moment where he lifts his off rubble and his eyes narrow. You get such a sense of emotion, which is married perfectly between the brilliant animation and the voice actor's performance. Is really great.
Because I've seen scenes of live action television with good actors where they've been presented with similar news and they have to sort of like react in a similar way, but then say why they're reacting this way. I've seen good acting and then again where they don't need to say that and it's just conveyed through how they act it out. So we've talked about it a bit a long time ago, but it's amazing to see actual stage presence and acting from well handled animated characters because they've made them look like they're giving a performance here, but it makes them feel so real that they don't need to speak out their super intention. They just show what they feel and how they're feeling it as effortlessly as a good actor would on stage.
Yeah, and that's what I love about animation and about comics, where the art
Mhm.
can tell as much of the story as the writing or the dialogue. Where great writers literally just see the artwork sometimes and think, I don't need to say anything here. The
Mhm.
artist is doing a perfectly good job of it. And this episode is a perfect example of that, as is the previously mentioned Long Halloween and Dark Victory, where Jeff Loeb says that he took a lot of dialogue out because Tim Sale's art was doing the job perfectly. So it's a great marriage. It's one of the best collaborations between writer and artist in animation and comics. That's why I love the medium so dearly.
It's true because I've seen a lot of other projects, not necessarily handled by DC, but I've seen a lot of other comics projects and animation projects where the writer is like the one brain kind of creator and then sort of puts their frame through it and doesn't let the animation or the comic artwork sort of like express anything. But then I've also seen the other stuff where there's been some beautiful visuals, but I've had no idea what's going on because the writer's sort of been sidelined by look how pretty this all is. And I'm like, yes, but where's the story here? So when the two sides of the storytelling dynamic are in a good spot, then you get truly good stories, which I'm fortunate is what we've had here since the show began.
And that's one of the beauties of this entire series, along with dialogue like when the new Harley, the fake Harley's introduced, and Joker's going down the line and shooting down some of the applicants. And when he gets to her, he goes, drown the kids and shoot the neighbors. I found my new Harley. And it's again, the writing and the delivery is just masterful, isn't it?
It's a very naturally Joker thing to say, but it takes a good performer to be able to say that in a way that's still true to the character and is still kind of funny in a sinister way. So yeah, perfect match of amazing talent all round. It's just such an iconic line. Feels very true to form.
And what about that great thing I always say, mirror to society moment of Joker's happy to take on Batman any day of the week,
But
but
the
the thing that
IRS.
terrifies even him is the tax man.
No, because I've seen that clip. I've
That's
seen
so
that clip
good.
done a lot of ways because yes, the IRS are actually scary because they're what arrested Al Capone back in the 30s.
That's the only way they could have got him. And again, brilliant thinking. Why don't they go down that road with a certain orange wig wearing twat who's currently being investigated? But I won't get political. This is a family show.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to as well. But then again, yeah. Oh dear.
Yes, another clown. Anyway, so how do you want to do this? Because usually at this point I talk about the cast, but the cast in this episode needs a bit of a spotlight. So do you want to do your takeaways first and then the cast, or shall I do the cast now and the takeaways after?
We always end up with the takeaway. We always end with the takeaways. Huh?
Let's do the cast then.
Let's not meddle the tradition.
Let's do it. Okay, so again, huge cast. We already talked about obviously Jeff Glenn Bennett reprising as well as Jack Ryder, and we know now that has to be leading to something because his role is getting bigger in every episode. But three main guest stars in this episode, and I'll start from Alan Rich, who plays Barlowe, the gangster who leaves the Joker the money and the will. Born Benjamin Norman Schultz, a major actor for decades, founder and activist as well, former of the charity We Care About Kids, making educational films for children, and also a communist sympathizer, which cost him a lot of work during the era he was working, but a stellar voice actor and talent on the TV shows like Hill Street Blues, Barney Miller, Golden Girls, in movies like Serpico, The Entity, Highlander 2, Amistad, Y50, Happy Days, Chips, massive Hill Street Blues. But again, someone who's done a lot, playing a bit part as a gangster. And now the two, which I know are going to make you smile.
Ooh.
Um, the bodyguard who decides he wants revenge against Joker because he was Barlow's bodyguard for years. He's played by Sam McMurray. Voice you may find familiar, but if you don't, voiceovers, acting, LA Story, Adam's Family Values, Raising Arizona, Christmas Vacation, The Sopranos, The Tick, Recess, 50 episodes of Dinosaurs as Rory Hess, the dad's best friend in that show. A bit parts in Elementary, and we're going to hear him again in Batman Beyond. But Sam McMurray is a bit of a fan favorite in our households because he was Chandler's boss, Doug, in Friends.
No
Bing!
way.
Yes.
Bing. No way. That's so good. That's you never expect that.
Done so much. I mean, that's a fraction of what he's done in acting, and brilliant character. I mean, Doug in Friends was fantastic.
Yeah, like that big cartoonish oaf of a man that like keeps John in and out of trouble at work. Yeah, but then again, like a character actor like that who's done everything, he could breathe life into anything and have
Absolutely,
handled well. And he really did a
absolutely.
good job here with the because it's more than just like a classic mobster, it's like an aging mobster as well. So being able
Yeah,
to get that across was very felt very natural. So yeah, well done. Love that.
and this is the one that you're not even going to believe. I'm not going to mention the actress's name till the end because you might know the actress's name. Did you recognise the voice at all? Because I heard it and I thought, I know you. I had a similar feeling with Sam McMurray. I thought I know that voice, but with this one, it hit me like a ton of bricks. The second Harley, did you recognise the voice at all, or did it ring any bells?
I honestly thought that the performer was so good they were trying to sound almost like a robotic Arlene Sorkin. So clearly they're a good performer, but I honestly couldn't quite
One of
register
these
anything.
actors that is another vocal chameleon. I didn't realize that she started out as a voice actor in the animated series Silverhawks, tons of episodes of Archer. We're going to hear her again in Justice League. She's in Captain Underpants, but a live action actor too. Ellen, Seinfeld, ER, X Files, Will and Grace, a couple of episodes of How I Met Your Mother. Curb Your Enthusiasm, the movie version of The Parent Trap, L.A. Law, but, but, a legend in terms of a voice where before you even see the character, you know who that is. And I can't believe you didn't recognize it because as soon as I heard her voice, I know you. This is going to be your oh my
No.
god moment. Yes, the fake Harley was the legendary Maggie Wheeler, Janice from Friends. And you're going to want to play that back again and go, oh, yeah, of course it is.
Okay, maybe it was.
No,
Okay.
it was. It definitely
Huh.
was.
Remarkable talent because we've had the Joanna from Friends in an earlier episode. So like some of the side cast there has been like great
And
dramatic
Sam
actors.
McMurray, Doug, as well
Yeah,
in this
exactly.
episode.
Exactly. So we've had some really good dramatic actors being able to like bring in really good dramatic actors do what they need to do there in comedy in Friends. So yeah, there's a real talent there because like high drama and like real strong character performances is definitely what you'd want from a lot of projects. If it's not necessarily what you'd expect to get in quote unquote Saturday morning cartoon television. So yeah, there's a lot of surprises there. But then again, we can just sort of count on Batman the Animated Series to get legends for bit parts.
And I love Maggie Wheeler so much because I've seen her acting and she is so different in every way. The way she speaks, the way she acts, the way she moves to Janice. Janice is actually one of the most amazing pieces of character acting I think I've ever seen because Janice and Maggie Wheeler are so different. But yet Maggie says that she does tap into her family, into people she knows when she plays Janice. And the fact that she's almost, like you said, a even more exaggerated Brooklynite than Harley is in this episode, and you get that same accent but heightened, and the even more annoying laugh, which is part of the reason I thought this is Janice. I know this is Janice. And when I saw Maggie Wheeler's name in the credits, I thought, yes, definitely. I knew that you'd love that, being a massive sort of Friends is part of your DNA when you grow up, even though there's problems with the series looking back, you can't take
Yeah.
away from Maggie Wheeler.
No, there's like that character is one of the few things that has stood the test of times and held up by a great performer that can clearly do anything.
Absolutely. And I know that that's going to be a takeaway now, but as always, from this wonderful episode of Batman the Animated Series, Joker's Millions, what are your main takeaways, good, bad, or ugly, from the episode?
I really enjoyed this first appearance of the Iceberg Lounge.
Yeah,
Because in my head, there's no clear look about what it is because it's kind of like the chameleon circuit from Doctor Who. It looks how it needs to, depending on the aesthetic of the writer and the creative team that's handling it. Like Wayne Tower almost, because like I like we mentioned Batman Joker Daily Duo, like Mark Silvestri's take of it looking like the Space Needle from Seattle in his current run of comics. But then again, I've also seen it being like a very tall Art Deco Empire State looking building into like a big monolithic black tower in the Chris Nolan movies. So it's got a lot of something about the landmarks in Gotham. They look how they need to for the respect of the creators, and in this one, they really played the actual iceberg aesthetic of like an iceberg in the middle of the dance floor, Arctic creatures sort of swimming around, adding to the whole nature and penguin thing. But then again, that's completely contrasted to the actual like rave club that we saw in the Matt Reeves movie. So it's very nice to see it, and I'm glad we did.
once again, great minds think alike, because that was going to be one of my main takeaways this week as well. The fact that we're seeing, because obviously, you poor humanoid, you. I inflicted the comics on you from birth. And obviously, the era of Penguin you grew up with was the introduction of the Kingpin of Crime Penguin, the Iceberg Lounge, the almost legitimate business owner. So that's probably the Penguin you know best, apart from this one from the animated series and the one from Batman Returns. So the Iceberg Lounge for you was something that's probably always there, right?
Pretty much. It's something that honestly, like as far as I'm concerned and as far as I remember, the Iceberg Lounge is as synonymous with Penguin as his whole thing for birds. For me at least.
Well, yeah, for anyone from the 80s onwards, from the late 80s, early 90s onwards, the Penguin is more not the guy who runs around committing crimes, which is the 40s, 50s, and 60s Penguin, but the business owner who runs crimes and the criminal underworld from the background, much like an Al Capone would. So seeing this side of him in the animated series just really, really made me happy.
Yeah, I'm glad we saw it as well. Now that I think about it, I have another big takeaway to sort
Oh,
of like mention.
lay it on me.
Um, During the montage of the Joker enjoying his wealth, and he was there at the golf course. Not only was he terrible at golf, which probably same. I've what little golf I played has just been like fun, adventure, crazy golf with people from work. But was that Bruce Wayne that was on a date?
Yes,
Air
indeed.
quotes. Yeah,
Yes, indeed.
he was surveilling him under the pretense of like being on a date with this nice blonde lady, and it's a nice thing to see that even during the day he's still surveilling someone that sinister. So yeah, it's a great character moment of like saying, "Oh yeah, Bruce is surveilling," without saying that Bruce is surveilling. So a great, well handled character moment that still adds to the ongoing narrative of like, what is the Joker up to? He's off the rails, but not breaking up the fun craziness of that montage with like deliberate questions to the audience.
I'm so glad you brought it up because again, the hive mind is in full effect because that was another one of the takeaways. But for me, it was for a slightly different reason. Like you say, Bruce is there watching the Joker, but not in a benevolent way like he was watching Arnold Wesker when Arnold went straight. But it's again those ties, even though they're subtle, to episodes that have come before, where Batman is seeing, can this guy reform? And he knew with Joker the other shoe was about to drop, the penny was about to drop any moment now, he would revert to type. And he was there to minimize the collateral. And that to me, again, is so vintage Batman that even when he's not in full costume, he's there protecting the innocent. And again, in full Bruce Wayne mode, with the gorgeous young lady there to provide him an alibi. And that brings me to my other take, the
Mhm.
alibi, the fake Joker, the Joker actually being really smart. No jokes, no gags, no links to the robbery, and having another Joker be physically visible to provide him with an alibi when he has to get the money back to pay the tax people. Brilliant writing,
Mm.
um, and really well handled. Because again, I don't know if you spotted it, that the fake Joker, even before he wiped the makeup off his forehead, the way he was so fearful of Batman and the fact he had full eyes, I
Mm.
knew, hang on, that's not the Joker.
There's
Great
something, yeah.
copy of the voice, but obviously that was clearly Mike Hamill, but superbly done.
Yeah, there was very clearly something off about that new Joker. I could tell right away as well, but I wanted to let the sort of scene sort of play out. Honestly, yeah, it was a good bit of like staging and planning from the Joker's part, which is why I still dispute the dog chasing cars character model of the Joker. He's very meticulous and very planned and knows
See,
what's
I
up.
agree.
Mm. Um, Honestly, it's very reminiscent of one of the greatest Batman and Joker stories of all time, Killing Joke, where there was a fake in another place and the smudging of the makeup, it makes it all obvious.
So good. So, so good.
Oh yeah.
And like I say, another vintage episode. I've yet to be let down, but um my worries are clearly unfounded and they're vanishing away into the ether because with every episode of season 3, I'm seeing everything I've grown to love about this series, and long may it continue. And I'm dreading the end now, to the point where yes, we have to do all the animated movies. We have to go into Batman Beyond, I think, because I don't want this to stop. And having seen a few documentaries on Batman Beyond now, and the special features for the lovely box set that a certain human got me for Christmas, I don't know who that human was. Perhaps I'm looking at them right now.
Hello, I am good at presents.
So you need to get yourself Batman Beyond box set too.
I'll source it from somewhere.
Yeah.
I will source it from somewhere.
But until you do, that has been Joker's Million, episode 7 of season 3 of Batman the Animated Series, and episode 87 of I Am the Night. You can catch this show and the DC Comics News podcast everywhere. But Adam, where can Gothamites catch you?
Me and my many things are spread across the great wild interwebs. For Batman and DC Comics flavored things, look to my many reviews a month on Dark Knight News. As I said earlier, Batman Joker Deadly Duo is in an amazing spot right now, but I also look very closely at Catwoman. There's been an excellent run of that since the title restarted. But for my one true love, PC and tabletop gaming, look to our pride and joy, fantasticuniverses.com, where I put in my own 2 cents about collectible card games, online PC gaming, and everything in between, and the odd pop punk and weird movie reviews that I find out there, and anything that tickles my fancy, really. Follow me on Twitter at isittinkerer. To read more about my Dungeons and Dragons work, look to Storytellers Forge, where I put in many Storytellers Forge tips to level up your TTRPG experience. Look to my upcoming Let's Play series on in collaboration with Biscuit Tin RPG and No Ordinary Heroes, called The Misguided League, promoting my new book run through Biscuit Tin RPG and Storytellers Forge to level up your interdimensional Dungeons and Dragons game, and many more things to come through the dark of the mirror. Bwahaha.
RPG fans and gamers, check that stuff out. It is truly wonderful. As for myself, chat to me on Twitter at lstevo. Read my works, listen to my voice across DC Comics News, Dark Knight News, and Fantastic Universes by typing Steve J. Ray or Fantastic Universes into your search engine of choice. Catch DC Comics News, Dark Knight News, and Fantastic Universes on Twitter at DC Comics News, at DKNewsCom, and at Fan Universes. Catch this show on Spotify, Twitcher, Apple, Google Play, wherever you get your podcasts. Catch us across the internet, across Facebook, social media, Tumblr, YouTube, and wherever else you get your fix of good nerdy stuff. But until you do, things you need to learn and things you need to do.
I am the Knight.
We are the night.
And this has been the I Am the Night podcast. Thank you for listening, and until next time,
Read
more
comics.
and watch
More
Batman.
Batman.
Wahaha.
See you soon.